Well, I'm glad that basically the message we put out got a further reach and more people heard of it. I'm still annoyed that Jim Sterling stole our segment on cognitive dissonance. So, in retaliation, I'm going to steal his segment on politics in video games. Hello and welcome to the Sometimes Serious podcast, where we're sometimes serious all the time. I'm your host, Philip Edwards, and as always, I'm joined by Michael Palmer.
Hello.
Um, Before we do anything, let's get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way because we didn't get to do it last week on the Sunday show because the recording did its thing. Tom, the other founder of the show, has decided he no longer wishes to do the show. He's decided he wishes to leave, and that's fine. He told us his reasons. He explained it all. We're fine with it. Wish him the best of luck in whatever he goes on to do. He's still our friend, and who knows, he'll still feature on some of the shows coming up. If we pitch him an idea, he'll probably be like, yeah, sure. So,
Yep. Yeah.
he's not gone forever. He's not dead to us. He's just decided he no longer wants to be
He,
a permanent part of the show.
he's he's not dead to us. Zombification, though, might be, an option.
Yeah. We'll reanimate his corpse occasionally when we do funny bits that we're like, Tom could fit in here. Let's reanimate that corpse. The other thing we didn't get to touch on, because, again, Sunday show, the Ubisoft press conference and the Devolver Digital press conference. Let's talk Devolver first. They
Yes,
smashed it out the park.
they really did. It was great. I loved it.
Such a good video. So funny. So, like, it felt like, I know it was brand talking to consumer, but it felt like they actually knew what they were talking about. And they were like, look, the industry's pretty ruined right now. We know it is.
Yeah,
So let's
it
make direct references to that.
it actually felt like they were more relevant and not trying to be and ending up like that. It's Steve Buscemi in that meme, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
hello, what's up, fellow children, or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it honestly felt like they were actually in on it and one of us rather than dressing up and pretending.
Yeah.
It was good.
It felt good. I would recommend going and watching their press conference at any time just 'cause it's really funny. They make some really amazing jokes, and the ending bit with Nina when they announced Devolverland. Oh my God,
Yeah, I
yes.
loved that.
I love how much she insults us, but she includes herself in it because it's
Yeah,
like us. It's us. It's not an executive. It's us. Food with
yeah,
us. It's like, yeah, yeah. So,
yeah. I
mm,
I do I do have to applaud her and everyone else that worked on that entire show for everything that they did because it was that great. And I am I am glad that they actually, and hopefully she got involved with the idea of her being included with the us thing, purely because no one is immune to marketing. There's always something out there that'll grab someone. So
hmm
the inclusion was a necessity anyway. They just lent on it properly.
yeah. Um, 10 out of 10. That is like if you watch that video, it's only 40 minutes, so it's not like these huge long ones that they do. It was only 40 minutes. And when you watch it, you will promptly know why here at the Sometimes Serious Show, we always say when Devolver speaks, you should listen.
Yeah.
Because that was just a showcase of them talking and every reason why you should be listening. Let's flip the coin and
Oh,
land on the
yay.
terrible side. Land on the side that is just a picture of a human turd. Ubisoft's conference, literally a day after. Wow, that was bad. That was. Should we let's
I
tackle the
th
elephant in the room?
Hold on. Before we do, I would like to say that it was so bad that while watching Devolver, I was thinking to myself, hey, I'm not going to ask for this time back on my lifespan because I enjoyed this. Ubisoft's one, I want my time back with interest.
hmm The the elephant in the room. We brought it up a couple of weeks ago. The Ubisoft sexual assault allegations. They didn't mention them. They didn't talk about them at all. They did tweet out like a day before saying how they weren't, how it was all pre-recorded, and that's why they wouldn't be talking about it in the Ubi Forward. Liars. They absolutely could have got Eve to sit down and record another piece because Eve did have a little segment in there where he spoke for, I think it was like a minute. He could have sat down and re-recorded that and explained it, but they deliberately didn't want to because if you didn't know about it, they weren't going to tell you. Why would they let extra
Yeah,
people know about the travesty that is Ubisoft?
yeah.
And it's despicable.
I
The thing
think
that go on.
I was just going to say, I think if they had spoken about it, that yes, okay, from a business perspective, why would you tell someone that doesn't already know about it about this issue? But I think it would have earned them a lot of respect back. Not enough to redeem them, don't get me wrong, but enough respect for everyone that did already know to go, okay, you're actually going to talk about it. Good. At least you're doing something right.
Yeah, they needed to outright come out and apologize. I also don't buy that it was all so pre-recorded because I know it's going to make me sound like a horrible human being, but there was when they were talking about Watchdog Legions, they had a lady on, and this is where I'm careful because I assume lady on who spoke about that this person has put Easter eggs in all of the games of a boat filled with cats.
Yeah.
I the thing that annoys me, and I'm not even sure if annoy is the right word, I'm almost certain that that person was deliberately put in as a token, as a see, we're a forward-thinking company, right? That's the only
Yeah,
reason
that
they
did
did that
have that
segment.
feel. Yeah, it did have that feel, and let's face it, in this industry, that wouldn't surprise either of us. And you, dear listeners, it also shouldn't surprise. It's what they do, and it's what they do pretty damn well. And not just Ubisoft, every company going. They always try to be that, or always try to have that image of being fully inclusive and more personable and human. It's just this one had that feeling as though it was just a last second quickly record it.
hmm And that's why I reckon that it wasn't all so pre-recorded that they couldn't record something from Eve, because I truly reckon that they were like did record this part with this person specifically to be like, oh yeah, but see, we have women. But no, no, you don't get to token people like that. That's not how this works. It doesn't cover up for your years of sexual assault when you've
Yeah.
just gone, yeah, but we have ladies who work here. All right, and how many of those ladies have been abused by your higher ups? You want to tell us that? Like the fact that I think it was 2 days after Ubisoft, a Ubi Forward, Eve came out and they fired, or what they had allowed an executive to resign, and the executive was a creative force behind
Yeah.
a ton of their games for many years past, and he's resigned amidst a flurry of sexual assault allegations. And this is one of those things that, again, I'm stealing from Jim Sterling here. Um, when Eve got up there and spoke, if he had talked about any of this, then people will start questioning Eve, and he'll go, "Ah, oh, so we're changing and we're moving forward as a company." Okay, so there are two options, and there are only two options. Either Eve knew about this and he covered it up, in which case he's a scumbag, or he didn't know about it, in which case he's incredibly incompetent.
Yeah.
It's one of those options. It cannot be anything else. And either of those means you don't want him running Ubisoft.
Or any company for that matter. If it's incompetence, I mean, if it's either of them anyway, but if it's incompetence, then you're not going to want someone in a position of power that doesn't know the goings on, because you then can't trust them to run that section of your business. And if it is unwanted sexual anything, then they just should not be in a workforce that deals with anyone else.
Yep. You stick him in McDonald's. If it's incompetence, he'll somehow burn himself in the fryer. If it's the other one, you'll find him fucking hamburger buns. It's one of those options, and neither of them fit in any industry. That analogy can be taken and put into any workforce.
I'm sorry.
He's a bricklayer.
The
So he'll
hamburger,
start laying bricks the wrong way, or you'll find him fucking the mortar.
the hamburger buns one. My brain just immediately went, is that what the special sauce is?
To be fair, Eve's like, do you want a hot dog? He gets a hot dog bun, it's just a tiny micro penis in it. It's like, oh, Eve, I'm so sorry. Yeah, they didn't actually show anything particularly great. They showed some extra footage of Valhalla, which honestly looked kind of average to me. Watchdog Legions also looked kind of average to me.
I agree on Valhalla and mostly on Watchdog Legions. I liked the whole thing of that they're trying to sell it on of recruit anyone, and they've all got their unique abilities and that. But the problem with that is there's only so many unique abilities. I use the term unique loosely with this, that you can put into the game. So, oh, this guy's a construction worker, so he can do this, this, and this. And it's like, okay, but how many people in other jobs have you put into the game that can also do the exact same skill set?
The thing that occurred to me when I was watching it, and I'm going to be relatively comfortable going. I reckon, I'm not making a big call on it. I reckon they're going to monetize it. I reckon you'll be able to buy the highest tier of character. Because
What, a bit like you can with the weapons in the Assassin's Creed games?
Yep, I reckon they will have monetized that because, oh, wouldn't you like on your team Ezio? Well, if you give us some money,
Yeah,
wouldn't you like on your team Altair? Well, if you give us some money, they will monetize it. That I am
and
very sure of.
they are the ones that are the holders for Tom Clancy games, aren't they?
Yep. You want
Yeah,
Sam Fisher?
yeah.
I really would not be surprised if you can buy them. It just wouldn't surprise me at all. But that's kind of all they really showed. Hyperscape, Ubisoft Battle Royale. It looks like it'll be kind of fun, but also there's so much bad stuff around Ubisoft at the moment that ill. That's kind of it.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Hyperscape was the only one on their entire show that I looked at with a genuine feeling of I could enjoy that if only it weren't Ubisoft.
yeah. Let's keep this train of hate going, or this outrage train. Choo choo. Don't worry, I will get to stealing the politics in video games from Jim Sterling soon. This is something I discovered and it kind of blew me away. Um, the US Army, I'm pretty sure most people know that the US Army, the US Navy, the US Air Force have all got esports teams now. And they stream on Twitch and they're kind of memey and they like to have memes and oh yeah, it's super funny, ha 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 ha. They have been banning people who go into their chat and say the word war crimes. Just war crimes. You get banned. I mean,
Oh,
for obvious reasons, the US would like you to forget about all of their war crimes, like US concentration camps where during World War II they took all of the Japanese people and actually put them into concentration
Yep.
camps. Most people like to forget that they actually did that. Yes, they were as bad as the Nazis.
Or if you're British like us and are of the same age as us, then your school might have been just as bad that when you did history and covered the Second World War for all of about 3 months, that it wasn't even mentioned.
Yep. They really, really don't want you to remember that. They really want to keep it hush hush. Like, no, no, we didn't. We didn't treat the Japanese like. Anyway, yeah. So all of that, and then something more insidious came out, and this is the one that really got me. Like, ooh, they have been tricking children as young as 13 into signing recruitment papers.
How have they tricked them?
During their long streams. It's like the
Mm.
background to it is that, they do their long streams, they're talking to predominantly children. And during their conversations, it's obviously like, look, hey, it's so much fun. Oh my God. Oh yeah, I'm a petty officer in the military. And oh, don't you want to be a petty officer in the military so you can stream for our esports team? Not telling them that it takes like 6+ years to become a petty officer. That's even if you have the skill set. Most people won't. Um, but then what they're doing is they're doing giveaways and they're going like, hey, oh, why don't you click this link and follow it to go to this giveaway? And it's things that you would obviously expect a child to go, oh, like, oh my God, the new Xbox Elite controller. Yep. They go to the giveaways and the pages are not giveaway pages. They have you sign up, but they don't give any details about when the competition ends, about how many winners there are. It's like, definitive things that are required on giveaways. Things like, an end date, a specific
Terms,
odds for winning.
conditions,
Yeah, there's none of
details, yeah.
that.
So
It's
what they're doing is, never mind the fact that it's kids that are early teens, but never minding that bit, it's also illegal from the point of you're actually you are using entirely deception because as far as anyone could tell clicking on that there is no giveaway because there's no details for the giveaway.
Well, that's the thing. As long as they still give it away to someone or claim they have and can prove that they gave it away, technically they're all right. Yeah.
But standards. There are standards
Wow.
to follow for giveaways. Obviously, that's me just knowing about the standards for giveaways in the UK. I would assume those similar standards would hold in the US as well. So,
I wouldn't be so sure on that because it is the US and this is really off topic. The US economy is basically built on their war machine. That there is a huge chunk of their economy that relies on the war machine, and the war machine is funded by soldiers. And there has been a massive decrease in soldiers lately because, strangely enough, people don't want to fight wars that they don't believe in, and they don't want to go into a random Middle Eastern country and kill a bunch of people in their homes for oil. So they don't want to do
yeah.
that. So people haven't been signing up. Yeah, the thing, the forms, right at the bottom in the small print, it does say that by signing this form, you are allowing a army recruiter to contact you the moment you're 16. And army recruiters in America, very hard to say no to.
Oh, they're taught all the psychological ins and outs, aren't they?
And they pressure and they push and they're almost certainly going to get you to sign a document that you don't realize is a contract with the recruitment agency, and then bang, you're in. It's really deceptive and it's
What's
really disgusting.
I don't know if you've looked into it or not, but let's say using me as an example, let's say I accidentally signed this and bam, that's it, I'm recruited. What's the punishment for not? For just basically not going, not turning up, not doing it?
I think, don't know, but I think you can get like MP jail time. I think desertion of duty is a criminal offence, and the moment you sign up, you're in. You've signed a contract with the military, and then you would be deserting. So I think that's a properly punishable offence.
Okay. So it would actually, if someone accidentally signed it, it would actually be, they would actually go along because fear of, you know.
Hmm. And then
Mm,
there's also the other side of America is very patriotic. I deliberately put that emphasis on there because I don't necessarily believe their version of patriotism is a good thing. I think it's actually incredibly toxic. If you got done for desertion of duty, you'd be labelled a coward forever. There is no way you could take any job ever again because you'd have a criminal record and they'd go, okay, let's check the criminal. Oh, you're a deserter, so you're a coward. Oh, well, why didn't you want to fight for our men and women in the military? I don't know, maybe because I was 16 and some esports recruiter said to me, "Hey, just sign this form. You can win this controller, and then you can come be a petty officer and play video games throughout the day for us, the U.S. Army esports team."
yeah.
It's really dirty. Uh, they also got caught view botting.
Oh,
This was like really recent. Like I saw it last night. Slasher was reporting on how they had like 3,000 concurrent viewers in the US Army esports like channel, but there was no one in chat. The chat was dead because it was bots. And then when it had gone up to like 3,500, there were people in the chat because 500 real people had tuned in.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so they've been view botting their own stuff, which, hey, as a small upcoming, I say small and upcoming, as a small channel that's trying to make an impact and trying to grow, let me tell you, view botting ain't getting you anywhere. It just won't. Just the nature of the beast means if you view bot, you're not going to get anywhere because you're not going to have any traction. It doesn't matter if this podcast got 1 million views. If no one liked it, no one commented, and we gained 0 new subscribers from it, then the 1 million views was pointless.
Yep.
So there you go, just a little peek behind the curtain. It's really, really
That is
insidious.
awful. Yeah.
So dirty. It's like scary kind of dirty. Could you imagine? Because they're targeting 13-year-olds. 13. Could you imagine signing this, like entering this giveaway when you were 13 and then 3 years later you have an army recruiter show up to your door and try and pressure you?
Yeah, because at the age of 13, you're not really going to be looking for the terms, conditions for anything, are you?
No. That's
Yeah,
and at
that is
13,
awful.
you're not exactly, well, at 16, you're not exactly going to have the mental fortitude to say to this army recruiter, "Get out of my house, you dick." "Oh, but you signed this document that said that I could come and talk to you." "Well, I changed my mind. Now get out of my house." You won't have the mental fortitude to do that, and they will bully you into signing forms that you don't want to sign.
I was just more laughing at that. Well, I changed my mind. If only so much of the world would work like that. There are
Mm-hmm.
certain aspects where I changed my mind really should be a valid answer.
Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with saying it either. Actually shows intelligence and that you're reconsidering your position like a human being should. Well, you know what? I changed my mind. Bang.
Yeah,
Ah, scary.
mad.
Ah,
It's yeah, it is what it is.
it's terrifying. I
Welcome to
I wonder if Twitch will
2020.
step in.
Say again.
Wonder if Twitch will step in. Because Twitch should step in.
I doubt. I really doubt it.
just on like a moral obligation, you should step in and go, you need to stop.
Yeah. But then we don't know if they've made a deal with Twitch or not.
Well, I know like YouTube has certain policies around giveaways that if you're going to do a giveaway on YouTube, you actually have to, and you have to prove that you have.
Yeah.
And it's I wonder if Twitch has the same. If so, Twitch, maybe you should be looking at these people right now. But yeah, just as a little fun game, the internet seems to be having a lot of fun with it, of going into their Twitch channel, the US Army's Twitch channel, or the US Air Forces, or the US Navy's, and speedrunning how fast you can get yourself banned.
Yes. Oh,
Obviously, just mentioning US war crimes will get you banned pretty quick, but try and be inventive and, see how long you can bring up these difficult subjects before they ban you. I would love to hear stories about people going in there and actually educating people instead of saying war crimes, saying like battle time no-nos and just floating under the radar. That would be amazing. So please go give it a go.
I
Tell them I sent you. Fuck them.
I seem to vaguely remember when we were in secondary school, I believe it was, about some sort of friendly fire that the US committed. Just, popping that one out there. It was actually a bad enough. It was a bad enough instance that we had the news for it as well.
What I would say is just go onto Google and type US war crimes, go to the Wikipedia page, and now you've got all the ammo you need. And then have at it. Destroy their Discord, destroy their Twitch channel, tell them we sent you.
Thanks. Start a war.
The Sometimes Serious Show versus the US Army.
Oh, we'll win easy.
Yeah, I was about to say, I actually like our chances. We're probably infinitely better gamers than them anyway, so be like, all right, let's go. Oh, okay, well, where do you want to fight? Apex? Easy one.
Yeah, let's go, Sam.
Oh, no, wait, sorry. You guys would prefer a more realistic military shooter. Strange enough, shooting guns in real life doesn't mean you're good at shooting guns in a video game. And vice versa.
Oh, yes.
And you know what? We're pretty good at shooting guns in a video game. So come at us.
Just a quick story time on the whole translation of using guns in games to real life and vice versa. Shopping before lockdown, so back end of last year, I think it was. My mother and I, we went shopping. We went to Brighton, and we saw a couple of armed guys there. Actually, they were just there because of the increase in attacks in recent times and all of that. So they were making a presence, and
You
I
might
stopped
express
to
that
chat.
with armed police officers.
Yeah, it's not like random civilians were armed. I think I would have had a bit more alert in my voice to that.
Well, you said
But
armed guys. They were armed police officers.
I stopped and chatted to one of them. I obviously asked if it was okay to chat, and he was like, "Yeah, it's fine." So I stopped and had a chat, and spoke about guns and that, and said it must be exhausting carrying that all day. And he told me the weight, which I cannot remember now. And he said, "Well, yeah, you're carrying this for what was it like, 12 to 16 hours a day?" I was like, "Oh, you must be boiling." And he went, "Yeah, it's quite nice when we step outside to get back into the hot vehicle." I was like, "I feel sorry for you." And he said, "It's fine, it's what we train for." And I said, "Oh, I bet you get a fair few people sort of my age that come up to you and are constantly playing like guessing games for what you're carrying and that." He said, "Yeah, and you wouldn't believe how many of them get it wrong as well." And they're like, "Oh, well, I've played Call of Duty, so it's this." And you're like, "It's actually not. Sit down." And I was stood there and I just went, "Okay, well, I can tell that your sidearm's a Glock. Couldn't tell you anything more than that." And he said, "Very good." He said, "Do you know what I'm holding?" I said, "That looks like a G36. He was like, "Yes, well done." You wouldn't believe the amount of people that come up to me and give me some random ass name because the game that they have played that they've seen it in doesn't have the license.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Cool." And he said, I've got a son. I think he said he was like 12 or something like that. He sits there, he plays Call of Duty, and he's like, "Oh, I bet I'd be great." And I just look him every time he says this. I just look at him and I go, "You really wouldn't."
Yeah, there's a world of difference here.
Yeah, but he did also acknowledge the fact that his son will trump him at Call of Duty every single time he sits down to play it with him. So, you know, there is that
That's the thing,
gap.
though. I'd want to take that kid out to a shooting range and go, "Let's play then. Come on, let's play." That's just me
I
being
think
a dick.
I think there was that sort of tone in his voice where he's probably had that thought and thought, I need to wait till he's 18. I need to wait till he's 18.
Let's talk because we kind of talked politics there. Let's finally get on and steal the Jim Sterling segment. He did a piece on Deadly Premonition 2 and how it was really balked, the frame rate was super low. And then he proceeded to discuss politics in video games and the whole culture around them, and whether games should include politics, whether they shouldn't include any politics, what it means, etc., 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 etc. I don't really need to explain more than politics in video games. So, what are your thoughts? Politics in video games?
Uh, I think there's a place for them in terms of story for a video game. If your game is meant to be very story heavy, it's meant to be very morally questioning stuff like that, then I think there's a place for them. But you can't go too heavy with it. If you go too heavy with it, you put people off, and it sounds like that you're actually trying to push an agenda, even if you're not. I feel like there is that fine balance, but it's such a fine balance that I don't think I've ever played a game where it's been done properly. Um, there is, of course, also a place for it where you're showing depictions of how things really are. Um, you know, usually in the form of an atrocity that's happened, and yeah, you have to understand that. I mean, I have to use Far Cry as an example here because dictatorship, that's always the thing with Far Cry, is there's some big bad that is the dictator of this area and you overthrow them. But that wasn't put there because we live in a perfect world where every country is under a democracy. It's not. It's put there because it's a reflection of things that have been, are, and will be. This is something that will exist for quite some time, pretty much the entire length that the human race will exist. I can't ever imagine that going away, just basically because we're humans. We all have something about every single individual that is a morally questioning part of them. And because of that, it makes for a very safe, I'm not going to say good because it's been done to the hills and back, but a very safe point for a story. And so that level of politics is fine. But when you get into the more nitty gritty details of it, you run the risk of just it either being a catastrophic flop or going so hard and leaning on it so hard that it's going to put everyone off from playing it. And so I think while you can't 100% remove politics from a video game, in terms of story, this is still purely because there's always going to be something that someone's going to interpret as a form of politics. When you put a story forth, it's up for interpretation. That's how that works. Go if you seem to think that you can get away with it, don't. Go back, do your GCSE English literature. Believe me, everything's up for interpretation. No, the curtains weren't red because the character was angry. The curtains were red because the author said so. Okay? That's it. And because it's up for interpretation, there's always going to be that level of politics to it. I just did air quotations with level. I don't know why, you can't see me. So I think, like I say, I think there's a place for it. You just can't lean on it too hard, and you can't always play it safe. Otherwise, your games just become like Far Cry, boring and repetitive. But when it comes to the non-story side, I feel like I'm in two minds. There's the half of me that goes, I need to know, because I need to know what's going on in the industry and with that development in particular, purely because if something has gone terribly wrong that really, one, could have been avoided, and two, should never have happened, then I want to know, because I don't want to support your uh, company by buying the game that happened to. But at the
Looking
same
squarely at
time,
you, Valhalla.
yeah. But at the same time, and to use Valhalla as an example again, I before I carry on with this example, I know it's another Assassin's Creed, blah, but I was looking forward to it because Vikings and Norse mythology, love that shit. But at the same time, if you don't have the politics there, a lot more people like myself, although I would end up looking into it, a lot more people would actually be able to enjoy the game for what it is, because you don't have that shadow constantly hanging over that project, that game, constantly ruining its reputation.
I basically you just said ignorance is bliss. But
Yeah,
let's stick
ignorance
to
is
like
bliss, but it's not an excuse, if that makes sense.
yeah.
You know,
Let's stick to
that's why
like
I'm always in two
story at the
minds.
moment.
Okay, so story, you've got my opinion there. I covered that first. It's just
I'm wondering. So we're going to stay on the Far Cry train because the Far Cry train is actually a really good one. Far Cry 5. Was Far Cry 5 too political?
that's difficult. I mean, the big bad and the way he was trying to get everything and get you on his side and explain everything was all right, but he still felt far too generic for me to be able to look at it with any political point of view, and instead I kept looking at it as lazy writing.
Okay. But I can tell you that that was actually, despite Ubisoft going, it's not, we don't put politics, nobody goes, that was extremely political.
Well, yeah, but that's because he was like, oh, we need to cleanse ourselves and all of that rubbish.
He was a Christian conservative, and
Yep,
they leant very hard into the fact that all of the enemies in that game were conservatives.
yep.
And they leant very, very, very hard into it. I
But
think we didn't feel it because we don't really lean that way on the political spectrum.
I I can agree with that, yes. But at the same time, it's also one of the safest ones to go for.
What, conservatives are bad?
Yeah,
But conservatives aren't bad.
no, but it's a safe one to go for if you want to appear to not have politics in your game. Purely because the vast majority of people will agree that change isn't a bad thing. Let's not dig deeper into that one with like how the change would be bad or wouldn't be bad, but as a general spectrum, change is not necessarily a bad thing, and you can use many examples for that, but again, it's all down to the minutia. So then having an entire set of bad guys where they go so hard against change is such a safe one to do.
But is it possible to do that without pretty openly going, these are conservatives? Because the enemies in that game were an allegory for conservatives in America. Like outright. As much as Ubisoft likes to claim they weren't, they were. There was a there was a Donald Trump. There was an actual
Yes.
character that you could meet who was the father of one of the people you could recruit,
Yep.
who was an outright allegory for Donald Trump. They may as well have called him Donald Trump. That's how obvious it was. Is it wrong to do that? because you're kind
That's
of
a difficult
attacking,
one.
like, let's say, because it is kind of split this way, so we're just going to say it is. It's about 50-50 conservative versus liberals in America.
Yep.
I think it actually leans there a slight majority of conservatives. Is it okay to insult half your population by doing that? Because you are straw manning their arguments and you are attacking their arguments without them having a recourse to do it back. Is it
See,
acceptable for that kind of politics to be in a video game?
okay, and I know it's satire, but is it acceptable for GTA to attack things the way it does? Like, it obviously takes the piss out of the FBI and all of that, takes the piss out of the entirety of America and what America is,
Mm-hmm.
and it leans into it hard. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what makes GTA's writing on a sort of company by company basis, because that's how you tend to deal with them, is corporation by corporation rather than individual to individual. That's what makes it funny, because it leans on it so hard and leans into the just nonsensical side of these establishments do so hard that it's actually good. But at the same time, is it still okay for them to do that? Is it still okay for them to attack the establishments and corporations like that?
I think GTA plays it a different way because GTA doesn't go conservatives bad. GTA goes, everything is hell world. Welcome to parody land. Because there are Democrats in that game who are scummy, and there are
Yeah,
conservatives in that game. That they attack everything. Everything is open for attack. In a
but
game like
it's still
Far Cry
political.
5, yeah, but they didn't. They weren't trying to make real world allegories. They were trying to just say everything is parody, and that's why everyone is ridiculous. One of the politicians is a school teacher who is going to go in there and teach these men how to behave. She's clearly a Democrat. And the other one is an out of work stuntman who's like, well, I believe in, all personal responsibility and I believe in, very conservative views. So they parodied both, which I think gets them the pass because they get to go, we attack everyone equally. Whereas Far Cry didn't. Far Cry only attacked conservatives. Could you imagine if a video game came out that basically throughout the video game, I'm assuming because we've never had this discussion, I personally believe that abortion should be legal and right and is just, and I'm
I
assuming you
agree.
believe the same.
Yep.
Now, what if there was a video game that the whole premise of the video game, the whole underlying story that was hinted at, and it was all built off of, is that abortion is murder, and you are a murderer for doing it. You're a scumbag for allowing women to have abortions.
On that thing alone, I wouldn't be put off buying it, obviously, because if the game itself looked good, and because I'm one of these ones that does pay attention to a few YouTube reviewers, then if they said it's actually really good, I'd probably go out and buy it, even if it is against my views. But I think because it's already been set by Far Cry 5 for attacking the conservatives. If a game like that came out, we couldn't then tell that one alone to not exist because we've allowed another one to. We've set a precedence for it. I That one's a difficult one for me to answer though, because of how I view abortions,
I
because it's a
can
very
I can make
singular
it easier
thing.
for you.
What, you're going to give me a different analogy?
Yeah. Do you
Okay.
think that every average Joe should be able to own firearms?
After sufficient checks to make sure that they're stable enough to do so, yes.
So basically, thanks for throwing shade on me there. Basically, you're saying I shouldn't be allowed to own a firearm. Yes. Okay. But so you would be pro gun control.
I would be, yeah, but I wouldn't ever want to. Obviously, this is a difficult one for us to answer because we don't live in America, but I do think gun control, but don't take the guns away from them, if that makes sense. So, like, if you have passed every check without any BS, then you know what? Everything's green A okay, you're fine. But if something flags up, more checks should be done. And then if the decision is made that you are not someone that should be trusted with a firearm, don't argue it. Either fix it if it's something that's fixable, and if it's not, you kind of have to accept it. Because with the right to bear arms, you have to understand that everyone needs to be comfortable around you as well. It's not about if you're comfortable having a gun, it's about everyone being comfortable with you having a gun as well. It's like if I wanted to go out and get a firearm, if I lived out in America, I wanted to go out and get a firearm, fine. I would be comfortable with that because to me, I would not use this irresponsibly. I would store it safely and all of the regulations would be met. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that the vast majority of the populace would be comfortable if they knew me, would be comfortable with me owning it. So if my checks were not met, if my checks came back and it was like, oh, actually, we kind of don't trust you to have one, I'd just accept it. I'd go, okay, it's a bit of a bummer. I'll just accept it and leave it.
This is a very interesting topic because I lean far more liberal than you do on this one. You appear to be more centrist, but this isn't a politics, thing that we're going to dive into. I I feel they should be recreational. That's it.
What, go down
And
to the range and...
yeah, that's it. You store them at the range. You store your ammo at the range, or
Well, yeah,
if
I
you want
mean,
to store the gun, like the ammo at the range, but then you can take the gun home with you, but you don't get to keep any ammo on you, or
I
they
think,
fucking take the firing pin.
see, that I think is a fine compromise. That is something that I'd be happy with as well. You know, if if say you could only keep the you could have your own ammo, that's fine, and you can have it in the house, but you can never have the gun at home or in your vehicle or about your person outside of the boundaries of the firing range or the entire area, because you'd have big ass areas, not just like small ranges that get depicted in video games. Obviously, people who have
Yeah.
gone to ranges in real life know this, but there will be those that don't. So, that would be a-okay with me. Just purely because, okay, that's fine. So they have a license, they actually own that specific firearm, they're just not allowed to carry it about them or take it home. That's fine. But then I will say there is that part of me with the whole home invasion thing. It is kind of like, you should have something to protect yourself, and sometimes an object to whack someone about the face with. I say whack about the face like it's going to be some happy-go-lucky smack to and fro. No, an object to defend yourself with is not always going to be the right one for that person. And I know that's a very individualist basis because it does depend person to person, but you then do run the risk, to argue my own argument, you do then run the risk of false firing. I can't remember who it was. Forgive me for this because I don't really pay too much attention to the news all that often, but there was that. Was it some sporting personality that quote unquote accidentally shot his girlfriend or wife through the bathroom door or something like that?
Yeah, he was a Paralympian. I can't remember his name
Yeah,
either. But yeah,
yeah,
he.
and claimed something like thought there was a burglar in the house or something like that,
Hmm.
and claimed it was a big old accident. You do run those risks, and I get that. So I get that. Yeah, I get that you would lean more towards don't keep guns in the house with any ammo or any way to fire them because of things like that. But if something like that was going to happen, and running under the assumption it was actually a malicious, calculated attack rather than an accident, then there's no reason that that couldn't have been done with any other object.
Okay, it feels like you're almost stepping on the fallacy of guns prevent gun crime, because that's
Yeah,
not
no,
even.
I'm not. No, that does not. No, that's not something I believe in any way, shape, or form. They don't prevent gun crime. The only reason that gun crime is such a shocker here in the UK is because everyone and their mums isn't able to go out and own a firearm.
Yep.
You know, so that's why gun crime in this country is such a, and in America it's just seen as like an average Tuesday. You know.
Yeah. Let's go back to video games.
Sorry.
The analogy I was going to use is Division 2 makes a specific point of saying that anyone without a gun was killed almost instantly. So therefore, free owning of firearms is the implicit right thing to do. You have to have a firearm, otherwise when it goes to hell, you're dead.
Okay, but at the same time, when it goes to hell, even if you have a firearm, you could very well be dead anyway.
But that's the political message that Division 2 was pushing.
Okay, but that's...
Or, well, as I say, pushing.
That is such a weirdly specific political message, though, because it needs to be in an apocalyptic setting for that message to even be valid.
Well, the message was owning guns is good.
Yeah, but
free owning of firearms is good. You should be allowed to stock up.
But the method that they threw that message in was, but look at this for an instance. Yeah, that's a very unlikely scenario, so stop it.
Well, a conservative cult that was, a conservative Christian cult that was taking over an entire area that became autonomous with the goal of launching nuclear bombs.
Yeah,
That was a pretty specific one.
Yeah, and also an even more unrealistic one. No singular person can just go, beep, I launched 16 nukes. No, you didn't. Stop it.
Exactly.
At most, you managed to make a made-up rocket in your back garden shoot up 2 feet. Well done.
It's one of those ones where it's a water bottle and you pump it to fill it with pressure and it goes,
yeah.
I fired a nuke, yeah! Not quite.
As you just pat them on the head and go, oh, well done, and walk away.
Let's get to the other part, because I've been deliberately contrarian, and I'm going to give up that deliberately contrarian because there is another thing that a lot of people argue on. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to be. There are some parts I agree and disagree with about this. A lot of people, I'm not going to paint with a broad brush. There are a lot of people who really dislike in video games trans characters, female characters, gay characters, bi characters, and they claim that is politics in video games. I can partially see where they're coming from, because it is an agenda that people are trying to push, and thus it's politics. I don't necessarily think the agenda is wrong. The fact that gay characters in video games are most often shown with equal rights and treated fairly, like human beings, I think is right and just and should be the way of things. But some people go, stop putting your politics into my video games. The fact that trans people are treated...
Okay, see now... I'm glad that they are in video games. I'm not fussed what gender I play as. Obviously, in a game where I get to pick a gender, I don't pick, or I try not to pick one over the other just because politics. I don't. I will honestly say that in the vast majority of MMOs I've played, I tend to pick more female characters than male. However, there are some MMOs, 76 for example, where I've picked a male character because I am projecting myself into the video game rather than enjoying it from a sort of dissociative perspective, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to role play, I'm not trying to do anything, I'm just trying to enjoy the game. Whereas when I do more role play gaming, I do play male because I am male. I am playing myself. What would I do in this situation given the parameters of the decisions? So I don't mind. And again, if trans was an option, I wouldn't avoid it because, oh no, you've put trans in my game. Fine, whatever. You know, if I've got character slots, I'd probably create one of each. You know, and as
One
for,
of each trans.
No,
Is that what you're saying?
one of everything, just to be inclusive. No, it's, and as for the sexual preference, it's meh. Good for you. You know, I don't really care what your preference is. You know, go for it. Include it in the game. It's fine. It's Gone Home.
Yep.
Great little game. You find a note that flashes up on screen for all of about a second, not giving you time to read it, and you can't activate it again to read it because it goes into some borderline explicit detail about someone's lesbian relationship, if I'm remembering rightly. And okay, you know, you play a family member to someone in that note, in that diary entry, so you can understand why they'd quickly put it down and go, oh, I don't want to read that. Because you don't really want to read that about your family, do you?
What Gone Home actually is you play as the lesbian. You are the
So why does
character
it act
coming back to her home full of the family members disowned her and really didn't
Okay,
want
but
anything to do
why
with her
does it
because she was
act
a lesbian.
like it's a family member, not yourself?
I don't know, but well, it's because the game was meant to trick you into thinking it was a horror game until you were like an hour in, and then right at the end it goes, actually, you were a lesbian. This was a lesbian love story. You know, huh? No, it wasn't. It was a
Okay, but
walking simulator where I picked up items.
yeah, I was gonna say I got horror game vibes for all of about 5 minutes until I was like, okay, nothing's gonna happen. I just walked about the house freely. Anyway, that's not the topic here. The I don't mind the inclusion of anything. I'm all for including people. Cyberpunk's coming out, and you can select trans, if I remember the news rightly. You know, good, fine. It's not going to affect me. I don't mind. Stick it in the games if you want. The more people that feel included, the better. Gaming's meant to be about a common interest and a share of and a love of something that brings people together, not a segregation of communities just because you've decided that you want to be the other gender. I don't claim to understand what goes through the minds or feelings of anyone who is trans because I'm not. I don't know what that's like. I I'm not qualified to speak on that, but I'm also not going to shun any game for including it. I wouldn't call it political. I get that, yeah, it's got an agenda because we are trying to push for equality here. That's great. Everyone should be equal, regardless of what they've got between their legs or what they feel or like or think. Everyone should be equal. But to label it political when it comes into a video game, to me just seems absolutely fucking silly.
It's because the vast majority of the push for inclusion of transgender people or LGBT people, that's just LGBT people, it's quicker and
Yeah.
easier to say, is from a liberal side. So some conservatives feel like that is political and then being attacked. But if you feel that way, I think you need to reevaluate some things because the
Yeah,
presence of a gay person is not attacking you.
no. I mean, you and I have been in the party with someone who is openly bisexual. And it's not like they go around screaming it. That's not how they introduce themselves. They don't join a party and go, hi, I'm bi. they don't, because that's not how you introduce yourself anyway. You don't go, "Hi, I'm straight. Hi, I'm gay." You just don't. That's not
Well,
what you do.
of course they wouldn't introduce themselves as "Hi, I'm bi," because then I'd say, "Okay, see you later."
Yeah, anyone that knows you would know not to do that anyway. But they don't scream on about it or anything like that. They're not trying to force their views down our throats so violently like a vegan at a barbecue. And I know that sort of throws shade at vegans, and there are plenty of vegans out there that aren't that horrible stereotype that you see on the internet. My mother is one of them. But you do get though the bad apples, as it were. And so I can understand why people, I was going to say feel threatened, but I'm put off rather, um, by this inclusion because of those bad stereotypes. But you are right; they do need to reevaluate things, because it's not an attack on them as an individual unless they are actively going out of their way to try and euthanize those groups. In which case, yeah, it very much is an attack on them. But
Again,
really,
the other side of it is an interesting one because sometimes, specifically in big media that comes from Hollywood or from LA, they do try and portray these certain aspects as holier and better. And I know it's a stereotype that all gamers are white men. The reason that
yeah,
stereotype exists is because there's a
the
very large
demographic,
portion that are white men.
yeah,
And having someone preach to you, I'm looking directly at you, Elizabeth Banks, and the terrible Charlie's Angels remake. Having
all
someone
right, okay,
preach to you that white men are evil and bad by nature of being white and male is very political and very wrong. I'm a white man. I'm not evil or bad, at least not on most days.
yeah, I see. I I feel like by because I've not seen that, I wasn't even interested in it. If I'm honest,
Good.
I've not seen the original. I sure as hell wasn't going to watch this, but I feel like that's the sort of thing where most people would look at me and go, "Why aren't you offended?" And I'd just be like, "Because I don't care." You want to how many to use video games as an example? How many video games out there have singled out a specific country as the bad guy over and over again? How many times has Russia been the bad guy? Not all Russians are bad guys. Not all Russians are horrendous people. So, you know, at the same time, that my view is okay, but I'm not bad. I'm not going to take offense to it. Just whatever. I doubt many
I,
people are going to like it. And my understanding is that it flopped.
oh, massively. It
Yeah,
lost a huge amount of money. We're talking 100 odd million it lost.
but then I kind of see, this is the weird one. I've seen the original Ghostbusters films. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, they were
First one's
great.
the best one. But the new remake with Melissa McCarthy in and Chris Hemsworth, isn't it, as the secretary?
Yeah, we just call it Ghostbusters 2016 because it's not.
Yeah, that one, I've seen a bit of it. I No, I was put off. And it's nothing, it's not because, oh, they're all female. It's because there wasn't the same energy to it. It was just, in my eyes, objectively, well, subjectively, because it's in my eyes, just terrible. The writing wasn't there. The jokes were forced and flopped at best. I think Melissa McCarthy, in the right roles, is really funny, actually. I think she can play certain roles amazingly well. But from what I saw of the 2016 Ghostbusters, no. Just no. It's.
See, that's the thing. You take that because a lot of people took away from that movie because again, throughout the movie, the villains are white guys. And basically the undertone of the movie is all white guys are stupid or bad. Because Chris Hemsworth is incredibly stupid and Rowan is incredibly bad. And then Rowan dies and goes into Chris Hemsworth's body. So he's stupid and bad. And that's the whole thing. Like that they beat the monster at the end by shooting him in the balls. That
Okay.
that was the
Okay.
underlying tone throughout.
See,
And that's what they tried to do. So
okay.
now put that into video games. I can kind of understand why some people go, "You're attacking me because you're saying that I am evil and bad. I'm not evil and bad."
Okay, because I didn't see the whole film, I obviously didn't get that. I just saw terrible writing and was immediately put off. So I don't know, it must have been about 20 minutes of the film that I saw, if that. I All I was offended by was horrendous writing, and I'd consider it bad casting just because Melissa McCarthy wasn't funny in it. Um, but yeah, taking that as the underlying thing, I mean, again, I feel like I should be offended. I'm not because I don't really care. You know, the first original Ghostbusters film, who was the bad guy? Or what
It
was the bad?
was an androgynous super being that was kind of from a
Okay,
different
but
dimension.
who was working to bring that super being in?
Uh, gods,
Don't need to
it
count.
was just the thing that was happening. There was Sigourney Weaver and the dude who got inhabited by the gatekeeper and the keymaster.
Yeah, but one of them, white male, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, but the other one was a strong woman.
Yeah, but still, that was just, hey, anyone can be. And
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Anyone can be evil,
yeah, but anyone can be. So that's
and
why I'm not
and
really offended by the whole white men are evil thing, is because, well, yeah, there are some that are. Just like there are some women who are just absolutely horrendous specimens of the human race.
but the rest of the first Ghostbuster movie didn't spend the entire time saying that men are stupid and bad and incompetent, because that is Ghostbusters 2016. Throughout, pretty much every male character
I
is
don't know, the
bad and stupid and
incompetence part,
incompetent.
you did see them trying to work together at the beginning, right? I'd have labelled them pretty incompetent at first.
Yeah, but that was comedic.
To be fair, it
That's the
was good.
thing. Whereas Ghostbusters, the original, they were competent and everyone was competent. And to be fair, Ghostbusters 2016 was a bad movie. But do you see that premise of
Yeah, I
the
do.
underlying
I
tone of
do
Ghostbusters
understand.
2016 was that men are stupid and bad and incompetent? Some people feel that they're being attacked like that in video games. I can understand that road. I don't necessarily think the inclusion of LGBT people is saying that white men are
No,
bad
it's
or
not.
white straight men are bad and evil.
Having the plot line be that every single one of them is, yes, that is an attack. Not that I'm offended by it, like I keep saying, but it is bad. However, just including different types of people in a game does not make it an attack on. I don't know what are we considered. I This is how little I know about the terminology, because I am just a white male. Is there some sort of label for that?
You're a white cis male.
A white cis male, the CIS.
Hmm.
Right, okay, right, okay, I am fine. Whatever. The inclusion of people who aren't white cis male or female, whatever. The inclusion of others is not an attack on me. So when people claim it as an attack and get it out of my video games, grow up, get a life, find something genuine to complain about.
I'm of the opinion of I think there is a battle to be fought there. I just don't think that the vast majority of people who pick that battle pick the right battle. They always want to fight a battle that shouldn't be fought. The inclusion of gay people is not an attack on you. Ghostbusters 2016, that's a battle to be fought. That's one that was fought and successfully won by everyone going, this is just bad. This is just written terribly, and you try to show men as evil and incompetent and bad, and it's wrong. So stop. But the inclusion of LGBT people, that ain't it, boss. That ain't it.
See, knowing what I know now about Ghostbusters, I think if the plotline had just been changed slightly, so it wasn't just constantly white men that were the bad guys, if it had just been anyone of any background, and it still flopped, then it would have just solely been on the terrible writing, because it was awful, and most of the jokes that I know of did not land even close to the mark.
Yep, they really didn't.
So I think the thing is, it could be done. Having an all-female Ghostbusters team with a male secretary could be done. You just need a decent writer and a better plot point.
I'll point you to not the original Charlie's Angels, but the ones with
the remake.
Yeah, not the Elizabeth Bank remake, the one with Drew Barrymore and.
Again, I don't even know because.
Anyway, those ones, I would point you to them because the women are badasses, and it is a male secretary. Bosley is a dude, and that they had a lot of fun filming it because it was a really cheesy movie. So there was a lot of them like zipping down their latex bodysuit to attract some foolish guy who's like, huh? And she like grabs him by the back of the head and she's like trying to force him to look at her boobs so one of the other angels can do something. That wasn't like objectifying her. That was her going, this is stupid and fun. And yeah, there are idiots. There are idiots who would go, oh, boobs.
Yeah.
And that's her going, I've got you hook, line, and sinker literally just by zipping down a tiny bit. That was cool. And that was badass. And it was cheesy and fun. And no one got offended. One last thing I want to bring up, and then we're going to move on because we're running short on time.
Yep.
It randomly occurred to me a couple of days ago, with all of this whole, this character's a lesbian, this character's gay, this character's bi, this character's trans, etc., etc. Blah blah blah. Who cares? I'm glad that everyone's getting representation. Awesome. When was the last time we had a straight female main character, like properly, openly straight? Like one that you actually saw, I don't know, making out with a dude. Because I can't think of any.
Yeah,
It's implied Lara Croft is straight, but you ever seen her kissing a man? Holding hands with a man?
I don't know if the Jolie films are canon or not.
Well, I'm on about specifically video games. When was the last?
I know, but just taking Lara Croft as the example, that's why I said I don't know if the Jolie films count or not because the films there did, but I haven't seen Croft do anything like that. So,
Or any when was the last? I suppose spoiler, fucking cover your ears for the next 30 seconds if you don't want to know a Last of Us 2 spoiler starting now. Abby. She has sex with a dude. But she's not really a protagonist, she's definitely an antagonist. No, okay. Welcome back. You covered your ears, well done.
Yeah.
You missed the spoiler.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to word this. I have a horrible feeling that my wording of this is going to make me sound awful. I don't mean it to. And that's, unfortunately, the trap that everyone falls into is being misunderstood because the words that they choose are not actually quite the words they meant to choose. So, listeners, please bear with me. I will explain my position afterwards. I kind of hate the lack of inclusion of everyone, if that makes sense. Just because I am a white cis male doesn't mean I shouldn't be included for it. But at the same time, just like everyone that constantly says all lives matter, they do, but they don't until every single life actually does. So
Mm-hmm.
same thing here. And the problem with that is if you shine too much of a spotlight on the minority, you actually, I'm going to say minorize, but I don't know if that's a word, the majority, meaning that you make it a very unrelatable experience. However, because of how many video games we have had that only focus on the majority, I understand it. It's just you've got to have that balance. And if you're going to be um, explicitly inclusive, and it doesn't have to be, like adult rated explicit, inclusive of everyone's choices or, you know, feelings or what they are, etc., then it has to be everyone's. Absolutely everyone's. Because otherwise, what you're creating is a sudden power shift. And I know for some people, they'd love that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make it so that everyone, regardless of who or what or where you are from, you are the same and you are equal.
I I
So,
definitely understand where you're coming from. There does seem to be portions of bad actors that have gone, okay, well, this group of people has had all of the power for so long. Now we want all of the power. That's not how this
yeah,
works. I understand where you're coming from, but the goal is equality. So we all share the power equally. That doesn't
yeah,
mean you're better than me. That doesn't mean I'm better than you. It means we're equal and we'll treat each other equally.
yeah, yeah. We
Okay.
don't need a reverse version of any atrocity that's happened in the past just to try and make things better. That's no, you just no. You just treat everyone equally. Just please.
I've got something funny relating to this to bring up to you that I found highly amusing, but it's not for the podcast. We're running out of time.
Okay.
There's two last things before we end. Um, as we discussed on the Sunday show, which again, the lost episode of the Sunday show, forever in the archives. Um, we discussed how we always talk negative. Everything we talk about, every story we bring up is always terrible and bad, and it's the worst of the worst. And it's necessary we do that. And I actually think it's good that we do that. And I hope that you listeners also think it's good that you get an insight and you realize that it's not all roses. It's people suffering constantly to bring you this amazing entertainment. And
Hmm.
it should hopefully make you appreciate it a bit more. But because it's not always doom and gloom, and we don't actually hate everything, despite what it might seem, we don't hate everything. Starting this week, each week, one of us, probably the host, so it's going to be me this week, is going to suggest a game to you that, like, I'm going to suggest a game to you that I loved, I thought was amazing, and it's really great, and I think you should go out and play, and it's actually so perfect, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to suggest What Remains of Edith Finch.
Amazing.
I
Amazing game.
absolutely reckon you should go out and play it. It is a walking sim, but it will take you 2, 3 hours, and at the end of it, you'll go, I love walking sims. I didn't know I loved walking sims, but it turns out I do, because it is fantastic. The less we say about it, the better.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in there, it's so in depth, and it's such a ride. You will love it. I loved it. Menzies loved it. It is
Yes, I did.
amazing. Go play What Remains of Edith Finch. See? We don't hate everything. There are things we like. I mean, they're few and far between, but there are things we like. Most of them are walking sims. Okay, the last thing we're going to bring up our ever returning, ever interesting, always engaging segment. Menzies is mildly interesting.
Just for the record, I hate this. But what I hate more is the amount of work I've put into coming up with this list that is now ever growing. So pick a number between 50 and 60.
50 and 60?
Yeah.
So I basically asked me to pick between 1 and 10, where I used to be able to pick between 1 and 40. I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
but
you know.
I'm only giving you a small section this week.
Okay, let's go 55 just for symmetry.
Okay. In 2009, Stephen Hawking held a reception for time travelers but didn't publicize it until after. This way, only those who could time travel would be able to attend. Nobody else attended.
So is that his attempt to say, well, time travel was never possible then? Because clearly no one's ever done it.
Well, there
The
we go.
thing is, that's kind of false logic, because you would have to publicize it so that in the future, when someone's created a time machine, they can go, remember Stephen Hawking's held that thing? Let's go back. If no one
Okay,
knows about it, then no one can go back to it.
Clearly did not need to publicize it because the internet knows.
I guarantee it's a very small subsection.
Yeah, the sort of subsection that would be interested in creating a time traveling device. So, you know.
There's also the whole paradox thing that if someone came back to prove that time travel could exist, it might discourage the people from creating time travel, or discourage the person who goes on to create time, etc., etc., etc. Paradoxes are hell.
Yeah.
Okay. That was mildly interesting, I suppose.
I hate this.
You love it. You secretly love it. Guys, he tells me after, like, the moment we finish recording, he's like, I really loved mildly interesting. I really love that I've got my own segment. That's why he always forgets about it, and I have to remind him to do it.
Kill me.
Okay, me first. That's it for the show. We're done. We're going to end before we devolve even more into, hey, no, you kill me first. We're done. Thank you very much for joining us this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed our little rants about politics. It was a bit of a weird one, but I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you all have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week, same time as always. That's it from me. And that's going to be it from Menzies.
Goodbye.